Hello and welcome to another review of another Lowland whisky, and it's another whisky from a fairly new distillery. This is Kingsbarns Dream to Dram. So Kingsbarns Distillery, which is in Fife, which is near Edinburgh, was established in 2014, and they actually filled their first cask in 2015. It was originally actually the dream of a local golf caddy, and he did a lot of the work sourcing funding and financial backing for the distillery, and he ended up selling the distillery to the Weems family, who eventually turned it into a functional distillery. And one thing I will say about this Kingsbarns presentation and the bottle is I really like it. It's a lovely colour, but both the box and all of the artwork and the bottle, they're all very traditional, and that's something that I quite like. Nice bit of patterning on the glass there, nice two-part label, nice blue, brown and gold colour scheme. And the name itself, Dream to Dram, I think that's such a great name for an inaugural release of a whisky. And it's such a humble thing that it's their dream to produce a dram, their dream to produce and sell bottles of whisky. And I think that's, if I was in that situation of setting up a distillery, that's exactly how I'd feel about it as well. So, details from the label. Distillery established in 2014. We haven't got an age statement on this whisky, but it does say on the box that it's created using some of the earliest filled casks from the distillery. So from that doesn't mean that this is a 2015 vintage. It means that some of the whisky in here might be from 2015 or 16 or 17. We're not sure, but from that we'd like to assume that this might be an average of around a 5 or 6 year old whisky. Also from the label, it's a limited release, whatever that means. I'm not sure if there's actually a number of bottles on here. I can't see one immediately. It is 46% ABV. It is distilled from locally grown Fife barley. It does actually say on the box. Makes a reference to the sun-drenched fields of Fife. Now, I live in England and towards the south of England, and I can't say that I've ever seen any part of the UK which is regularly what I would call sun-drenched, but maybe they have lower standards than me. Other details from the label. I was about to see that I couldn't see it on the label, but it does say up here natural colour and non-chill filtered. So quite a lot of information on the label, including all of the information that matters. We also know that this is matured in first fill bourbon casks and first fill STR barriques. So that's pretty similar to what we saw from Knockneen Distillery. They were using STR red wine casks, and Kingsbarns are using STR barriques. So a barrique is most likely a red wine cask as well, so pretty similar. But what I do like about Kingsbarns is on the back they say that these casks are, the whisky is matured in 2 types of cask and then married together. So it's not a case of maturing it for a few years in a bourbon cask and then flavour dipping it in an STR cask. It would seem that everything is matured full term, and I think that makes a big difference, and it's a big step up in quality from a cask finish. Now, this isn't actually the first time I've tried this whisky. Before I bought this bottle, I did have a chance to try this whisky in 2019, and judging from my notes and from what I remember, I'd say that this whisky is pretty similar to the Dream to Dram expression from 2019, with the exception that this does just generally seem a little bit more mature. So it's all looking good. It seems like things are coming on nicely over at Kingsbarns. So with all that out of the way, let's get some in the glass and see what it's like. So the first thing I'm noticing on the nose of this one is a very intense and sweet and dense sweet fruitiness. Actually reminds me a little bit of the Bladnoch Vinea that I reviewed fairly recently, their new no age statement. But I would say that the intense fruity sweetness that you're getting on the nose of this one is a little bit more focused and sharper than what I saw on the Bladnoch. I think when you first nose this one, there is a little hint of spirity youthfulness to this, but fortunately that all disappears fairly quickly. It's replaced with a lovely wave of sort of salted toffee notes, and then you really get into that juicy, sharp fruitiness. Getting lovely notes of sweet lemon and lime and mango, lovely creamy mangoes, lovely vanilla custard, and just this sense of laser sharp maltiness that really grows and just shows you that this is really quite a mature whiskey despite the young age. Let's see how it tastes. Now, I really wish sometimes that all whiskies could be this laser sharp and focused. There's lots of lovely sweet and sour lemon and lime notes on this one, and I know it's not for everyone, but I really like these really sharp, fruity, spirit-driven styles. There's also lots of really nice creamy vanilla notes on there, and some more of that really nice maltiness. The intensity of that sweetness actually reminds me of that tutti frutti chewing gum that you used to have when you were a kid, and that sweet and sour fruitiness, it just integrates perfectly with those lovely malty barley notes. It's really nice. Just going to try a bit more. Beautifully sharp. Anyone that likes sweet and sour or lemony things, they'll really appreciate this one. As for the finish, I'm going to say medium long, which is pretty good for a youngish no age statement whiskey, with lots of toffee and lemon and some really nice soft spices on the late palate. So this one it's really surprised me, to be honest. The quality of this is much better than I was expecting. I didn't really expect this one to be much more than a 3 or 4 year old no age statement malt whiskey, but from what I'm tasting here, it tastes like it's a lot more than that, and I do believe them when they say that they're using some of their earliest casks in this. It does taste to me like it's more around the 6 or 7 year old mark. It is true that it is slightly immature at times, but you get over that quickly, and it's much more refined and defined than a lot of the other youngish no age statement whiskies that are coming from a lot of new distilleries these days. But then when it's a distillery established in 2014, it probably should do. So it does seem like Kingsbarns is a distillery that's really coming of age and it's really producing some really good stuff. I'd say that this whiskey from Kingsbarns, as it is already on par with a lot of the youngish bourbon matured whiskies from all of the more established distilleries, but it has the advantage of having a bunch of extra character from that craft presentation and the 46% ABV. I was ready to compare this new Kingsbarns whiskey to Bladnoch, maybe compare it to the 10-year-old bourbon expression that I'm familiar with, but after tasting this one, I think it'd probably be fairer to compare this to something like Glenkinchie, which is another Lowland whiskey. I think Glenkinchie definitely has more in common with this sharper, fruitier style of whiskey. So I personally am really looking forward to seeing what comes from Kingsbarns Distillery next. Hoping to try some new expressions. Hopefully they'll come out with something other than their basic Dream to Dram expression, as nice as it is, so I can try that as well. Because me personally, I think that this distillery style has bucket loads of power and character, and I think it'd be really special at around the 15-year-old mark. So really looking forward to that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.